nice to meet you, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity of talking to you.
Of course, my pleasure.
Okay, excellent. So, well, first of all, we know that INTA is planning the annual meeting in November. So, why is that? Do you think the pandemic will be over by then, Mrs. Deutsch?
Well, we're obviously optimistic. That's quite a while from now, and of course the health and safety of our members is always first and foremost. So we will move forward with our plans with that in mind, but we're hopeful, yes.
Yeah, but maybe you have to change it again.
Well, we don't know that in April, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, you are the new president of INTA. What do you want to achieve in this new position?
Well, I think I am definitely committed to continuing to advance the priorities of INTA under its strategic plan. Those are always a focal point of our work. That's driving brand value and building consumer trust, and also moving forward with other policy priorities we've identified: anti-counterfeiting, brand restrictions, internet governance. So all of those things remain the same. In addition, for me personally, I would like to focus on two things that are near and dear to my heart from my own experiences. The first is my presidential task force, which is how to become an all-star IP practitioner. And this really comes from my own professional background. I specialized in IP for many, many years, and then about 6 years ago, I was promoted to Deputy General Counsel in my company, and I still kept oversight of IP, but I also became responsible for business and legal affairs, the contract lawyers, commercial lawyers, et cetera. And what I found was it really exposed me to additional areas of the law, to other parts of the business, finance, marketing, and to other opportunities to develop my skills in executive communication and project management. And what I found was all of that, I think, made me a better IP lawyer. And I brought a lot of those opportunities back to my IP team, which I continue to manage. And so I thought we could have a task force that looked at how brand practitioners and IP practitioners could develop skills and knowledge and expertise in a way that would help them kind of be more holistic lawyers, have opportunity for advancement in their own career, and really demonstrate added value to their internal and external clients. And so that's where the presidential task force came from. And that's really consistent with what the organization has been doing in recent years as well, which is to expand its focus beyond trademarks to other substantive areas like copyright, data, and also to expand its focus just from legal professionals to marketing experts and economists, and really approaching everything we do much more holistically. And so that's one priority of mine. And then the second, we are launching, or we have announced the launch of a new initiative to develop women's leadership in IP. And that's something that is very important to me. And we are going to develop some programs, some content, and other tools for women in IP to develop strong leadership skills that help them advance their careers and achieve positions of leadership, and how INTA can further support and assist its women members in doing that. This aligns also with INTA's own priorities. We have the last year's presidential task force was on Brands for a Better Society. We've created a new permanent committee for Brands for a Better Society that includes not just conventional pro bono initiatives, but also more broadly social responsibility on in a number of ways, including diversity and inclusion. And INTA itself, I think, is very well represented with women in leadership positions, including on the board and among INTA presidents. Many, I think, in the last 20 years, 10 of the INTA presidents have been women. Tiki Dare from Oracle is the president-elect for next year. And currently 15 of the 30 board members are women, 5 of the 6 officers of the board are women, and of 70 committee chairs and vice chairs, 31 are women. So I think INTA itself has done a good job and is very committed to this, but what I would like to do is help INTA amplify that more broadly in the IP community with our members and beyond. So that's another important priority for me.
Yes, actually, we wanted to ask you that as a woman, what does it mean for you to be president of INTA and for other women working in IP?
I think it's important to, especially for women who are newer in their careers, to be able to look at women in positions of leadership. I think it is it can be motivating, but it's also reassuring that those opportunities are available. I have a 10-year-old niece, and she doesn't know anything about IP, but when I became president of INTA earlier this year, there was an introductory video that INTA distributed, and my niece, I showed it to my niece, and my sister told me the next morning she was showing it to her 2 little sisters and saying how important I was. And I think even for young girls to understand that women can achieve positions of leadership, I think is important, and I would definitely like to use this opportunity to demonstrate that and to help other women progress in their careers.
Maybe it's a good idea to teach these kind of things in the schools.
Oh, I'm all for that. My mom was a teacher before she retired, and I do think the earlier you can get to young girls to give them confidence and to give them the skills and the approach necessary to advance professionally, I think that's really important. I think a lot of times when I was first starting out in my job, I thought if I just put my head down and do my work and I do it well, that will be enough to advance me. And the truth is, of course, you have to do your work well, but you also have to look up from your desk and understand what it is to raise your hand for stretch assignments or to make sure your work is known to your clients or to others in your company and your firm. And I think the earlier we can teach that to young women, I think the better.
Yes. Dr. Ayala, you are also responsible for managing IP matters for the NBA, the National Basketball Association. Which issues of IP in the NBA has right now?
I think our issues are similar to a lot of other brands. We, of course, deal with anti-counterfeiting, which is a focus of INTA and many of INTA's members. I think we are, like many companies these days, a global brand, and so overseeing IP across a number of jurisdictions and understanding how the laws and regulatory frameworks may differ from one to another is a focus of ours. And then I think just the use of technology on both sides. I think brands use technology to their advantage for sure, but also the use of our IP on digital platforms, the use of technology by counterfeiters to facilitate either better quality counterfeits or easier distribution, and then just what technology means in terms of IP in the future, whether it's artificial intelligence or 3D printing, and those are issues that many brands, including the NBA, are looking at, and also that INTA is considering as well.
Yes, with this economic crisis, it's going to change something. You have new issues to take care about.
Well, I think we all have to understand how to navigate in the current situation, and then whatever the situation is when we come out of it. But I will say one thing that the COVID-19 situation has done, and I've seen it for the NBA and for INTA and others, is I do think it drives innovation and creativity. I think when you have to adapt to very, very different circumstances, it really can expedite creative and innovative thinking, the use of technology. INTA had its first ever completely virtual board meeting a few weeks ago, and it's not something we had ever contemplated, but I think it went well, and I think there were benefits to it. So one of the things I hope comes out of having to navigate through the current financial situation is that it will drive kind of increased innovation and creativity as we come up with new ideas to deal with the new reality.
But the trademark registrations, I think it's going down. Is it right?
Well, I think we have to see. I have not seen that in my own MBA job in the last couple of months, and I think at the end of the day, whatever the new commercial world is, brands will continue to be important to it. I think brands have become relevant not just from a commerce standpoint, but also culturally and socially relevant. And I do think brands and the ability to protect brands in some way will continue to be important as we come out of this. Not entirely sure what trademarks or IP or the economy looks like 3 months from now or 6 months from now, but I do believe brands will continue to be an important part of that, and we will continue to have a responsibility to help build and protect those brands.
The same with the patents. Maybe patents registrations, it's more clear that it's going down in these months, in this last period.
Yeah, I don't know if we can judge the long-term reality from a month or two of when the crisis is at its peak. Certainly patented processes and technologies are, you know, a very important form of innovation, and I do think we see that in the coordinated efforts to try and identify a vaccine for coronavirus. There will continue to be innovation, and I think that innovation will have with it, you know, the framework of patent protection. I think it's hard to judge from a month in which there are a lot of office closures and other things to predict that there will be some sustained drop-off in IP or IP protection. I think it's a little too soon to do that.
Okay. Let's talk about Latin America. What issues of IP concern INTA the most right now?
Yeah, I think, you know, many of the things we see as priorities across the organization are relevant to Latin America. I do think, first and foremost, we are working with our members in that region to try to raise awareness of the importance of IP policies and the impact of IP on the economy among high-level government officials. I think it's very important they understand the role that IP can play in their economies. INTA has been invited by the governments of Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica to participate in their processes in all those countries of building new national IP strategies. And we've also had some progress coming out of a recent impact study we did, Trademarks in Latin America, Economic Impact in 10 Latin American and Caribbean countries, which was published last fall in collaboration with ASIPI. So I think first, we are very focused on raising awareness and engaging with the government in trying to develop these policies. And I think we're also, the brand restrictions that I mentioned earlier on as one of the organization's key priorities, those kinds of legislation and regulations regarding brand restrictions do come up in the Latin America region. There have been regulations and cases involving that issue in Chile, in Colombia and Peru, Panama, and Mexico just released a new official standard in this regard. And so again, INTA is working with local industry associations and our members in that region where appropriate to meet with officials and to submit our position to legislative and executive officials in those countries just about the considerations that the government should be taking into account as they are looking into whether and how to regulate this, and those all stem from a board resolution INTA passed last fall, which sets out the factors that governments should consider when adopting or imposing branding restrictions, and explaining how those restrictions can erode brand value, diminish property rights, but also diminish consumer choice and weaken fair competition among competing products. So that's coming up a fair amount in the LATAM region as well.
Yes, I see. What do you see? How do you see the future of IP? For example, I don't know, in 5 or 3 or 4 years.
It's an interesting question. When I took over as president in January, I went to the INTA headquarters in New York, and the global INTA staff was there. We do that every year. It's called INTA Week. So the INTA president can meet with all the staff, and they can meet with each other. And when I presented to them, I told them for 2020 they should all get out their crystal balls, because I think we are very much looking forward into the future. INTA has established 3 think tanks to look at the IP office of the future, the IP law firm of the future, and the IP in-house department of the future. And we also have a lot of substantive committees looking at, as I said, artificial intelligence, big data, and other kind of legal issues of the future. So I think as we bring together the results of these think tanks and look at what the substantive committees are analyzing, my prediction would be I do think IP will change, but I think IP will, its importance and its relevance to consumers, culturally and otherwise, and to commerce will continue. And I think that when we look at INTA or at the NBA or other brands, we look at brands with a much broader lens. We also, one of the new committees, as I mentioned, we started was Brands for a Better Society. We are not alone in that. There are many companies that are thinking about what brands mean to the public in ways other than sales. And I think IP, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, there may be new and different concepts about what an IP asset is, but if anything, I think IP will be further entrenched in terms of its relevance to consumers kind of culturally, and also its importance to commerce from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, and also the holistic view that you talk about at the beginning of our conversation, no?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's important. I think IP ties to so many other things, whether it's in the business or out in the world with the public. And the more that IP professionals understand that and can integrate all those different aspects, I think the more, the better the engagement and the end product will be, and the more impactful.
Yes. Well, finally, what advice could you give to young IP lawyers?
Well, it's interesting. I was not very strategic in my career. I followed what interested me. I never studied IP in law school. I was doing commercial litigation for about a year, and when I worked on my first trademark case, I was fully engaged and I fell in love with IP law, and I wasn't at a firm that did a lot of IP because I didn't know it's what I wanted, but I went to the two partners who did IP and I said, give me every single thing you have, I'll find time, and that's how I developed an IP expertise. So I think what I would say to young people is it's very good to be strategic and to think through the next steps of your career, but I think it's equally important to follow your passion or your interest or your engagement. I think when you truly are interested in and enjoying what you do, it really drives your development, it drives the excellence of your work product, and it drives ultimately your success. So my advice would be strategic, but also follow what engages you and what interests you. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ayala. It was very nice to have you. And of course, thank you to Jean-Claude also.
Thank you very much, Fabiana.
Thanks to you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, everyone. Bye, Fabiana. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jean-Claude.
Fabiana, I'll send you the file as soon as it is ready.
Okay. She didn't want to, to see her.
Yeah, I think she phoned on her phone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Did I send you a photo to include already?
Oh yes, that will be perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Fabiana. All the best.
Thanks to you.
Okay. Ciao for
See you
now.
soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.